So welcome everybody to the webinar, Ask Us Anything About Agile. My name is Erez. I'm the CEO and founder of Agile Sparks, who is hosting this webinar. We're a consulting and training company that is operating worldwide, all the way from the US to Europe to India and APAC. And we have a team of experts that are ready to answer all your questions. So I suggest we will start by very quickly introducing ourselves, the panelists, and then immediately go to the questions. And we have quite a few questions. In the meantime, while we present ourselves, I'm encouraging you to share your questions in the Q&A button that you can find at the bottom of your screen. I'm not sure that we will be able to answer all your questions, but we will make an effort. So the sooner you put on your questions, the better. So without further ado, ladies first, can you please introduce yourself and let's move on.
Anna, please.
Just about to say the same to you. Well, hi everyone.
I said it first.
Hi everyone, my name is Dana from Agile Sparks. I love people and I love to talk, so it was just natural that I would become a coach at some point in my career. Yeah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Nice. So hi everyone, I'm Yael Rabinovich, and in the last 12 years I enjoy helping organizations, software organizations especially, improve communication, reduce waste, and bottom line, helping them having more happier customers and happier employees. So we love to share my experience.
Okay, I'll go next. My name is Ofer Cohen. I'm also an Agile coach in Agile Sparks for the last 12 years. Before that, I've been many years development manager and helping software organization or people who build systems as a consultant makes me much more happier these years.
So maybe I should go next. My name is Gili Aharoni. I'm working at Agile Sparks for about 5 years. I've been a consultant for more than that. I'm a computer and electrical engineer. So my passion is about Agile, not only in software teams, but also everywhere else, especially obviously multidisciplinary systems and hardware systems, and obviously software. But I'm really exploring and trying to find new ways of being agile or delivering value, better value and faster value through agile in other disciplines.
Right, so thanks everybody for the quick introduction. So Agile Sparks has been working in the last 13 years with hundreds of companies, more than 400 organizations, and we would like, our answers will be based on that experience. So hopefully this will provide some value to you. So without further ado, we will start with the first question that came along. Panelists, please answer. If the answers are going to take too long, I'm going to ask you to make it short, so we can accommodate all the questions. Okay, first question from Avi. How do you measure teams' performance and productivity? So
okay, I'll start, and probably others will help me. So this is a very common question that we get, and it can get very long, so we'll try to keep it short. So first of all, when we talk about team's performance, we want to avoid situations that we comparing teams one to another. So whatever measurements you pick, make sure that you avoid comparing teams, because what you want actually to achieve is to see a trend of improvement in team performance. Now, I know that a lot of organizations are using a lot of KPIs around performance and metrics and productivity. The ones that we usually recommend using is the first one is the cycle time. Cycle time means how much time passes since we started working on an item, whether it's a story, feature, epic, whatever you want to call this issue type, until it's finished. And the cycle time represents how fast are we delivering value. So we want, first of all, to measure the cycle time. There are reports for cycle time in different ALM tools, and we want to see improvement in cycle time from one iteration to another, or from one release, or from one quarter to another. So the cycle time is the first most important measurement I'm always recommending to use. Someone else want to help with other measurements?
Yeah, another measurement that I recommend apart from cycle time is to measure the escaping defects. But when I say escaping defects and measure defects, it's not measuring every defect in every stage of the development life cycle, like a lot of people are used to do, but actually escaping defects from production and production only. Because we want to see if the quality of what the team is delivering, what is this quality, and what passes all the cycles of QA in the team, outside of the team. This is what's important. What is being delivered outside? Okay, so measuring the escaping defects, it's very important. And we want to see, again, like Ofer said, we want to see a positive trend, that we are improving, that we are reducing the number of escaping defects. And when we have escaping defects, it's important to analyze, okay, not to just stop at the number. Why are we having those escaping defects? Is it a lack of knowledge in the team? Every measurement that we are looking at needs to bring a discussion, okay? It's not just measuring and having the numbers.
Right.
One more sentence. There was one more sentence, last sentence, okay? We didn't mention velocity that a lot of companies are using, and it's okay to measure velocity as indication, but again, don't compare between teams. But I wanna add two quick things. First of all, is team happiness. When the team is happy and the team works together, it contributes to the quality they deliver. And customer satisfaction. This is not on a team level, but as a team delivering value to customer, you want to measure our customers are happy with what we deliver. And this is another thing that as an organization, you really want to measure.
Okay, thank you for
team happiness.
Yael, yeah, go ahead. Let's make it quickly because we have many questions.
To mention that the team happiness not only contributes, but it's also a way to see that we are not abusing the other metrics. So if we are working on, I don't know, we are trying to be fast, and by that we are loading too much work on the team, or cutting, you know, in the definition of done or equality or in stuff like that. So team happiness is really the measurement that balances the pitfalls of the other measures. I think it's important.
Right. So thank you, guys. I think that one important sentence that might have been somewhere hidden in what Ofer said is don't compare between teams. We will not go into it unless we have specific questions, and then we will deal with it. But if this is not clear to you, I think that it's very good to dive into that message and understand why Ofer said it. Okay, so I marked this question as answered, and I'm moving to the next question that came along. And the next question is by an anonymous attendee. What is the role of managers in an agile transformation? Panelists, over to you.
You want to start, Gili?
Yeah, go ahead, Yael.
Okay, so I think the question about the role of the manager comes up when you do an agile transformation in general. It comes up because there is some kind of a pain with the agile transformation, with the role of the manager, where we are building cross-functional teams that are more independent and autonomous, and then it makes an emphasis on the problem, on the change that we would like to create in the role of the manager. And basically what we want the role of the manager is to grow the team, to build and encourage autonomy and to build trust in the team. It coaches the team as a team, both as a team, helps them to grow, and as individuals inside the team. And less about task management and directing people more, and more in the direction of growing people. There are different situations when in the organization during the implementation. Maybe Gili, you want to mention some situations you encounter, or you want to add?
So there are probably several constellations. So one of them would be some when the team manager is a Scrum Master. This configuration is quite common, but the question is when we don't have a manager at the team level, what happens then? Maybe you have the people manager at the group level, or we don't have managers at all in some organizations, and that's also a common implementation that we see. And in that case, for example, if the discipline group lead is still managing the people from that discipline, which could be front end or back end, etc., then what we would like to see is the manager to coach the people and give them the environments to grow and create their autonomy, and not managing their tasks. What the manager should do is to find that things that can be done for the team in order for the team to be better at what they do. We want them to be excellent.
Gili, I would like to cut short and move to the next questions. I think that one thing that I want to say just in one sentence: without managers leading the way, there is not going to be an agile transformation. So it's very clear that managers are needed and are crucial for any transformation. And without managers being in the leading seat, managers cannot delegate the transformation. They need to lead it. And actually, without this support, we're going to hit a very low glass ceiling when we start our implementations. Okay, I'm marking this one as done, and I'm moving to the next question. The next question comes from a medical or FDA regulated company or environment. And the question is, can Agile be implemented in a highly regulated, such as FDA environment, where there are a lot of front-end and back-end activities? So can it be done in a highly regulated environment?
So the short answer is definitely yes. The longer answer, of course, needs to be more tailored to the specific organization needs. We have a few customers that are working in FDA regulations or other situations like that, and the secret behind it is, first of all, involve the quality people, regulation people in the organization from the beginning in the Agile implementation, in the Agile transformation. Work together with the people who are responsible for those activities in your organization, and together find a way how can you start doing things not at the end of the process, but along the way that you build the system or you build your product. And FDA requires lots of documentation. Nobody says that you have to build those documentation or the auditing or everything else at the end. You can build those as part of the iterations that you do. You can build those as part of the progress that you do in delivering the different features or different systems that you are doing.
Yeah, I would like to quickly add that the FDA itself, in a white paper that was published maybe 10 years ago, suggested Agile as the best way to develop medical products and systems. So the FDA itself does not force anything to be done at the end, and all the requirements like traceability and so on and so forth can be broken into parts and be part of the definition of done. So again, the short answer is yes.
I think in that environment they can. Yeah, I think in that environment they can enjoy the improve of quality much higher, and of course.
Yeah, right. So hopefully this was just a drop in the ocean, but hopefully it gave some answer. Moving to the next question by Pavel. Do you have any success story with bringing Agile into a bigger / older corporate? Thank you for the question, Pavel. Definitely yes. And guys, let's provide some examples.
We work with many big companies like Amdocs and Siemens, and which is also an old company, and we found that they enjoy significant improvement in their performance. Obviously, not all the organization is agile already, and you have some islands of agility and some other islands of waterfall, and they are still in that effort. But we see that every organization, whether it's 100 people or 100,000 people, most organizations explore agility.
So I wanted to add that the most important thing with those, let's call them older legacy corporates, is that they don't have the right mindset, and changing the mindset to an agile mindset takes time. So the most difficult part is how you start implementing, especially in large organization, agile in small part of the organization, and you have to choose which department product you start with, gain success there, and then move on to the other parts of the organization. But and the most problematic thing is, again, working on changing the current way of working, which is more waterfallish style. And doing that is, the way to do that is working on the mindset of the people who lead the organization. We talked about managers a few minutes ago, and the role of change agents, the role of consultants is really to work and mentor the managers in the organization in new ways of working and how they can lead the transformation without losing control and decentralize control to the other teams. So working on the mindset of such organization is critical.
So I think, Pavel, you asked about success stories. So I can refer you, and I will write later in the chat a link to our website where we have stories about organizations that we help transform. So you can take a look at those case studies. We have dozens of case studies of such companies. And by the way, when we talk about a success story, we always aim at doing something that is very clear, and it has very clear KPIs, which are numbers. So we don't just say the organization improved without any evidence or without any data. So for example, I will take one example of Intel. We worked with a group that was distributed between 6 or 7 different locations, all the way from the US to Taiwan in the East, an old organization, very traditional and so on. And by working with us, they managed to improve their velocity. And this came from the tools by almost 250%, so 2.5x on their cycle time. And they managed to drop the cases coming from the field by almost 95%. So this is an example of where we took an organization with hundreds, and we have organizations that we work with thousands of people. And of course, the bigger the organization, the more difficult the implementation is. So definitely we have many case studies. Please look at the case studies that we share. AT&T is another example. You can see many companies that are bigger and older, like you mentioned in the implementation. In the question, I can definitely say that bigger organizations are bigger challenges. For sure, it's clear, but it definitely can be done, and great improvements have happened. So hopefully this one was answered. Moving to the next question, because questions keep piling up. We're going to be very busy today, which is great, great, great. Next question comes from Meital. She has actually two questions. So, hi, what's important to consider before Agile implementation in the organization? This is the first question. Specifically, I'm interested to know if we want to implement Agile in business development department, where should we start? Which processes are relevant? So again, the first question is what's important to consider? So what is the prerequisite, or what do we need before we start transforming the organization? And how do we do it in business development and so on? So
I wonder if it's okay to start?
Sure.
I think the first thing is to start with the why. You need to understand why are you doing this transformation? What are you trying to achieve? And how will you measure it? How will you measure the improvement? It's very, very important, because this is what guides us to what to implement, to what to adopt. Okay, so we don't want to do Agile for Agile. We want to do things that helps us reach our goals. So as I mentioned, the first thing is to understand why we need or we want to do this transformation. And the second thing is a very strong coalition leadership, okay, that is engaged to that move. Okay, so we have a team of leaders understanding what are we trying to achieve here, and now we can start and choose and focus and lead this transformation.
Yeah, so to continue what Yael said, start with the why. When we are being called to help organizations, we start usually with what we call management workshop, and we gather the leadership of the organization and we ask them, after a quick survey, we ask them, okay, what challenges do you have in the organization? What are you aiming to improve in the organization? And based on that, we are, first of all, creating a baseline so we can compare later on, did we improve on those things? And then we work together with them to define what is the right process for their organization. So to answer your second question, you should start with the challenges that you have, understanding your current process and your current problems. And usually what we do is we put the current process in some kind of a Kanban board, and we discuss how can we improve this process, what are the bottlenecks, and we use the Agile principles and Lean principles in order to improve the different aspects of the way that you currently work. So we can go ahead and go into more specific things about Lean principles and identifying waste, identifying bottlenecks, and delivering value faster in short chunks of work in small batch sizes. So there are a lot of principles that are general, they are not specifically for software, and they can be applied in different aspects of work that is being done in many organizations.
If I may add to what Yael and Ofer just said, it implies, what they said implies that we need to have management committed to that transformation. We want them to not only to support it, but to participate in that transformation. And if we can't have them committed to that, it will be very hard to do this transformation. Maybe we can do some improvements, but it will be very, very hard. So this is probably one of the first things that any implementation should do, to create that buy-in for the management of the organization.
I want, if we have still more time, to refer to another aspect of it, maybe drill down a little bit for the actual way we do Agile. So one of the things that is important in order to be Agile is to organize around value, okay? So it might affect the way we are organizing our organization, okay? So it's how we build the teams and how we structure our organization. But from your question, it doesn't mean we need to prepare anything for being Agile. This is exactly what you are starting and exploring while you start implementing Agile. You're starting to explore how to organize in a more aligned to value and etc. So it happens along the implementation, and it doesn't need to be prepared in advance. It might be better when you organize properly before, but you just start and.
Just to wrap up. Yeah, go ahead.
I do want to add that one thing that I think it is important that you prepare in advance, not the entire structure of the organization, all the changes, like I mentioned, that can come later and should come later once you identify what you want to do, what is your purpose. But you need to allocate people who will lead it as full-time, okay? Like a small group of leaders that will take this, and this will be their day-to-day activity, and think of that. Internal coaches, leaders, strong people who can take this and make it their center mission. Otherwise, it's very difficult to make a change. Like Ofer mentioned before, it's a cultural change. So you need to have dedicated people that are working on it full time.
Yeah, I would like to wrap it up in a minute. I will just add 2 sentences. For me, before you start an Agile implementation, what you need is motivation. You need some kind of a pain, some kind of a challenge that will drive you to change, because if everything is great, then there is no need to change. Obviously, we need to connect to that pain, because then we will know that we improved. And the other point is that we are really serious about it, and management really understands that in order to improve, there is a change that needs to be done, and managers themselves need to change. So some kind of a pain and a commitment to pay a certain price for alleviating that pain will be my prerequisites. Okay, I'm moving to the next question. The next question again comes from Pavel. Great. So Pavel says, Agile is not about tools, but can you recommend some of them, like Trello or Target Process and so on? So yeah, absolutely right. Agile is not about tools, but tools are essential, especially in this day and time where we are distributed. And even if we're used to work in the same office, most of us are, because of Corona, we're working from home. So the option of using a physical board is less feasible. We need a tool. So in the past, you know, and even today, there are many choices of tools. What we see in our implementations mostly are tools like, yes, Trello in the lower end where you just start, but when you want to scale, then you see tools like the Atlassian suite, Jira, you see the tools for Microsoft, Azure DevOps, you see Target Process, you see Plan View. So all these tools, they do the work. Some have, you know, advantages versus other disadvantages. I would say that if you want a good Agile tool, you need to make sure that all the organization is working with it. So don't have one tool for the product people, and one tool for the delivery people, and one tool for the professional services people, because you want to see everything in one dashboard that is unified, we speak the same languages, etc. So you can start small with a freebie like Trello or a team level tool. But as you grow, you need to look at a tool that can accommodate the different aspects of the organization, and you can see everything in the same tool. Of course, when you scale, you start to talk about tools like Jira Align and Candice, and there is a strong list. And if you have a specific question, we can address it later. We see many tools in the field. No tool is perfect. By the way, the best tool is physical. Nothing beats a team that can just, you know, draw another line in 1 minute together and add a column. It will be much more difficult to do it in a tool. But as I said, tools are essential. Agile is not about tools, but tools are necessary. So
yeah, especially when we these days work remotely, and the face-to-face communication is not that easy. You have to rely on tools, and we can help. We are helping customers to choose the right tools. As Erez mentioned, there is no perfect tool. And also one more small note about this question before we move on. Make sure that you do not customize the tool too much. Too much customizations on tools usually lead to slower processes and maintenance issues of the tools and so on.
Right. So yeah, many tools. If you have a specific question, by the way, this goes for all the things that are discussed here. Feel free to reach out to us through our emails, info@AgileSparks. I promise that we will answer every question that comes up. You can ask us everything, even if you don't make it in this hour or until the last question. So please feel free to come to us. We see as part of our role as a company to educate, to share our knowledge, and we have dozens of years of experience in the company, and we will be happy to share. Moving on to the next question, what is the difference? This comes from Reka, hopefully I pronounce it right. What is the difference between product manager and a product owner? A classic.
The classic question. So a product manager is more about outbound activities, working with customers, external customers, and the product owner would be the person working at the team level, working with different stakeholders within the organization. Some of them are product owners, but not only, because the team may have several other business owners that need to be addressed. And so in that context, the product owner prioritize the user stories for the team and works with the team to identify how to implement the solution. At the higher level, the product manager would look at features and epics to call for the higher level directions of the product or the organization or the solution. That's on that general, but we do see organizations where the product owner is also the product manager. So we see some mesh of these roles. But in the larger organizations, we see many times a product manager may not even be on the same country, and the product owner which is co-located with the team and works with the team continuously. That's very short.
In general, my opinion from the experience I see is that you need to avoid this separation of product owner and product manager as much as possible. And there are cases that you can't avoid it because of scale, because of location, because of many other considerations. So it's a good option when it's needed, but try to avoid it in terms of making the team. What happens when you build the roles this way, you might find yourself making the team very far from the customers, okay? So what you are trying to achieve with Agile is to make that the team will be as close as possible to the customer and understand it and understand the value. And when you do this split of PM and PO, it might break this link. It might be more challenging to create this link to the customer. So either you avoid it, or if you have it, notice this problem, this danger, and see that you manage it and not to make the team too far from the customer, understanding the real value, the real problems, the real directions that they need to take with the customer in order to bring value.
Okay, sorry to be the bad guy that keeps the watch. Would like to move forward. So we have a question from Wayne. What is the optimum number of teams a Scrum Master should have? Another classic.
Well, let me answer. I would say depending on how much the team is self-managed. Okay, in the beginning, when the team is starting and people don't know each other and they are not familiar with Agile, maybe a one-to-one, it's a better mix, and it's one team for Scrum Master. But as the team grow more experience, you can have a Scrum Master shared between a few teams, 2 maybe, maximum 3, I would say, but 3 only if the teams are really mature. But at the beginning, I think usually it takes at least a year for a team to start really understanding and grow as a team together, to form together, to understand the processes, how to work together and everything. It's better to have one ratio.
Yeah, I would like to add something. Sometimes people look for guidance, which is a number or something that is accurate. What is the difference between a PM and a PO? What is the number of people in the team and so on? We need to remember that when we adopt Agile, one of the key premises is inspect and adapt. And it doesn't mean that we stop thinking because we follow the rule. So we need to always look. Let's say that we decided that the Scrum Master is distributed between 2 teams or maybe 3 teams. We need to make sure to measure and to look and to pay attention to how the teams perform and what is the payload on the Scrum Master and so on. Because, for example, we have different phases of development. The company is sometimes in the exploration phase and then in the execution phase. So we need not to quote unquote get married to numbers. Yes, there are guidelines that may be a template, but we always need to look at the reality and adapt. So I will be very surprised to see an organization that works the same throughout a full year because people change and so on. And one of the aspects of Agile is we want to be able to change and adapt and hone and improve our processes as they are needed. So again, don't take any number as coming from Mount Sinai as the Bible. Always take it with a grain of salt. Yes, you can start with a template. Same thing goes with story points and so on. There are so many things that you can start with a general guidance, but we always have to keep our eyes open. So this is just a general notion. Moving on to the next question that comes from Hartmut. Hopefully this was pronounced correctly. It's quite a long question, so I'll read it with you. We started a project which comprises software, electronics, and mechanics. We wanted to do it in an agile way. During the course of the project is drifting more and more direction, waterfall in agile disguise. Okay, we have different name for that. Agile in name only, agile theater. So this is good. Agile in disguise, I never seen before. It's especially hard to go this way with agile tools, sprints, user stories, backlog. Any advice how to proceed? So I think the question is very, very interesting for any multidisciplinary questions, and good that we have Gili with us, who is specializing on it, but everyone can, of course, relate to it. And the question is, how do we deal with organizations that are multidisciplinary? Can we do Agile? How do we not fall into the waterfall and silo thinking when everybody is doing their part and just meeting in the end?
So the key concept.
Go ahead, Gili.
Yeah, thank you. So the key, hi Hartmut. The key practice would be to swarm together, work together. So all the groups, all the disciplines work together towards the same end. And one way to do it is to do some higher level planning. Plan together, if possible, every sprint, but usually it might not be possible to plan for the whole group together, for the team of teams to plan together. Then you should plan for at least every quarter together to make sure that we have the same goal for the next quarter. We understand what it is that we need to achieve, and we understand how we can help each other. And the main goal is to actually reduce cycle time of every delivery, every sprint or month or quarter. We need to review what we are doing and our goals for that period, and find ways to reduce cycle time. So that's
I would like to add something. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what Gili said, that you need to focus on integrations. How many integrations, or how quickly can you do integrations between the different departments or the different domains? Now, integrations are always difficult, and because it's so difficult, organizations are tending to postpone integrations or do fewer integrations. And what we're actually saying is try to do as many integrations as possible. You will find out problems faster, you will be able to fix them faster. So the same applies here. When you define the larger picture that Gili talked about, define as many integration points as possible, and don't use what we call, don't focus on resource utilization. Focus on how can you do integrations between different departments, even if they take time, even if they take 2 months or 3 months until you can do the integration, but define the integration points and make sure that you have those along the project.
Yeah, I would like to add a few points that you mentioned in your question about doing the same sprint, the user stories, and backlog, and so on. So when you do Agile in a multidisciplinary project, it doesn't mean that you put all the people together in the same team. It makes sense to have teams that do software and some teams do hardware. The thing is, as Ofer said, integrate often. And I would add one more thing that is actually pointing to management. If management is measuring how good the software people are and how good the hardware people are and so on, then you will have silo mentality and waterfall. If management comes to the value stream and tell all the managers, look, we are looking for end-to-end cycle time. I want to know when my product, my system is going to be finished. I don't care if the hardware was great and the software was poor or vice versa. One side cannot win and the other side can lose. You cannot be okay and the product will fail. You have a shared responsibility. And once you measure people on the shared responsibility end to end, you see more collaboration and people avoid what you sometimes hear from organization. I was okay, it was your problem. And everybody has their own they. So hopefully that provided some answer to that question.
Have another minute to add something?
Yeah, sure.
More thing to say, Hartmut, you can contact me and we can talk further about that.
Absolutely. Yael?
I want to say something that is more general about the Agile theater part. I think something to understand is it's when you want to reach more agility, it's about habits. It's about adopting habits in the organization. And naturally, we know about our personal life, it's hard. Okay, you want to eat healthier, so you start new habits and suddenly it deteriorates. Okay, so also in organization I worked with time it deteriorates if you don't maintain it, if you don't renew it, ask new questions about it. Okay, so we have sprints, so what are we delivering in every sprint? Are we integrating? Okay, so you need to be very hard with yourself with the questions and the measurement, like Erez and Gili mentioned. But I think it's important to understand it. It's not a one-time thing. Okay, sometimes I work with organization for a few years. Okay, because it's the next challenge, is the next thing we see that is now happening. And before, it's also like when you solve wastes in your processes. So you solve one and then you surface the next one. Okay, so the bottom line I want to say is that agile transformation, it's something that you need to maintain, and it happens that you stay with the names if you don't maintain it and you invest in it.
Right. Okay, I'm moving on to the next question. Comes from Oren. By the way, a very nice name, Oren Carmel, which is, I think, a name of a particular tree. So the question is how to properly integrate testers into a team that works in Agile.
Again?
How to properly integrate testers into a team that is working in Agile.
Wow.
A classic.
So can I start? Okay with you guys?
Go ahead.
I think what guides us is that we want to continuously test. Okay, so we don't want to have quality testing done at the end. Okay, so there are several practices we are doing in order to continuously test and build quality into the process. And one of the implications are usually is that the testers are integrated in the team. Okay, because it makes it easier and much easier to make a flow until the end. So the team takes full ownership on quality and it becomes part of the process. So This is one thing that is naturally done in implementations. On top of it, usually my recommendation is to have also a team or like a system team or something like that that is outside of the team, that is looking more in broader sense on quality, in broader sense on quality, in flows that are broader, if it's performance, if it's stability, so things that are above or on top of what the teams are doing in the teams.
Okay.
Something else.
Jana, just before we go, I will let you answer. I just wanted to say that we have about 11 minutes left, and we have, I think, 20 unanswered questions. So I think that we are happy to continue after 7 or 6 o'clock European time, and we will try to answer all the questions. But in case your question was not answered, and we see the question that you posted, we will try to reach out to you and maybe write you an email and answer a question. So don't be very upset if we don't get to your question. Sorry, Dana, go ahead.
So I wanted to say that when you're trying to have a QA within the team, then you need to look into the sprint planning and to consider that. And when you do the planning, part of the planning is not just let's break into stories and tasks and discuss how we're going to develop things. Part of it is really to do the plan of the sprint. So you want to go through all the team together and to understand when you're going to deliver what parts you are going to integrate before, how you are going to coordinate the work with your QA person, when should they start to write their test cases, what needs to be prepared in advance, data, environment, and everything. So this, when you're starting to discuss the entire process in the sprint planning, then you're really putting the QA into the focus and into the team plan, and not just someone who is outside and he will do the testing, or she will do the testing when the developers are done with their work. Okay, you need to build the plan together, and you need to also to understand what is the capacity of the QA person. And whatever the QA person cannot handle, then the team needs to take by themselves, the developers. So that is also something that you need to discuss during the sprint planning. Okay, it impacts your entire sprint.
Yeah,
I think like to emphasize what you said is that the team takes full ownership on the quality. So challenging the notion of a tester being in charge of testing. Okay, so the tester might have expertise in specific tools or specific areas of testing that might help the team, but in general, an agile team needs to take full ownership on quality, which means the discussion about what needs to be tested is inside the team, and then they split the work. So some of the tests will be done by the developers, integrated into their code. Okay, so it's a unit test, it's integration test, it's code basically. So when it's code, you know, it's part of the team's work. So this is a very important mindset and challenging the role of the tester. Okay, so I don't mean that you don't need testers anymore in the team, but still you need to think holistic on the testing activities that you need to do in the team, and to split the work between the different team members based on their capability, based on their capacity, based on whatever.
Right. Thank you very much. I would like to move to another question. This question comes from Oksana. The question is, could you recommend best ways to help the team be more self-organized? Maybe some useful techniques, exercises, and so on. So I know that we have full days of courses about it, and we can talk about it for a long time. Let's try to do it in a couple of minutes because we're running out of time. So the question is, what kind of techniques can we recommend, or what kind of exercises?
Maybe each one of us will say one technique that he recommends. What do you say?
Go. Yeah, nice idea.
I will start with ask more questions and try to avoid giving too many answers. When, you know, don't irritate the team but by asking too many questions, but be curious, ask questions, and help the team think more by themselves rather than giving them answers.
Right, next.
Start giving them ownership by facilitating events by themselves. Give them a chance to do things, not only chaperone them or kindergarten them.
Yeah, so to add what Yael actually mentioned is asking powerful questions and let the team reach the answers themselves as a team. And the second thing that Dana mentions is actually what we many times do. We, for example, in one of the organizations I'm working right now, retrospective is facilitated by a different team member every time. And the same goes for iteration planning or sprint planning. We reached agreement that every time someone else is facilitating that, the Scrum Master is there, is helping them if they are stuck, but this builds a more dynamic work within the team.
Gilly?
Well, if the team manager is part of the team, for example, if the team manager is also the Scrum Master, so my suggestion would be come to the meeting and just shut up, don't talk, let them do the talking. If there's a need, only do facilitation, and even that facilitation, try to ask other people to do facilitation for that meeting, and just listen. Yeah. Just listen, let them talk, and let them take decision, and then support them. Eventually, they'll grow to be self-organized, and you will trust them by them showing you as a manager that they can do this task and complete them by themselves.
Right. I want to share. No, we said one each. I want to share my tip, and then we will move to the next question. My small exercise is actually, I think that I copied it from you, Yael. Try to look at the daily meeting, and each time a person speaks, you can draw the line and see who is talking.
So you mean build more richer communication patterns in the team?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if at the end of the day you see a star, so the Scrum Master or the team leader is in the center and he is talking more than everybody else, then you can improve it. What you would like to see is a level playing. You would like to see everybody speaking and the conversation flow between people. So there are many exercises.
Yes, I must say one more thing that
yes, of course.
Please.
20 seconds.
I think it's very basic because the manager needs to set goals in terms of outcomes, and then the self-organization will be by the team deciding how to reach these goals. Okay, so setting goals and objectives and understanding what will be the outcome that the team needs to achieve is very basic for the team to self-organize. If they don't know where they need to go, they will, go in different directions and will not do what they need to do. So setting goals not as tasks, but setting goals as outcome. What are we trying to achieve is very, very basic in creating a self-organization.
Right, this is a huge topic. And as I said, we have complete courses about it. By the way, you are most welcome to browse our website and find out our public offering and courses that we do that discuss such things and others. Moving on to the next question. This is an interesting one. What do we do if we realize, this comes from an anonymous attendee, so what do we do if we realize that there is a 100-degree change in the middle of the sprint? In Agile, we can't make modifications to the sprint. So even if we know we are heading in a wrong direction, would we still go forward with this sprint? No, but I will let somebody else answer.
So we can.
So the situation is that in the middle of the sprint, we found out that there is something that we shouldn't do. We should go the other direction. What do we do? Dana, please help us.
We go the other direction. Okay, the product owner can change. If it's total change, then you definitely can change and should change. Okay, you just, of course, need to do planning for the remaining part of the sprint and everything, but you don't need to continue with a sprint that gives no value, that is not needed, it's going the wrong direction, it's just waste, okay? But most of the cases, you don't need to make 180% degrees change, okay? There are things that need to be modified, and also those can be changed. The most important thing is to keep the sprint goal, something that we sometimes forget to put in the sprint planning, but that is our guiding in what we want to achieve in the sprint, and not just the user stories or the product backlog items that we want to deliver, okay? This is not the goal. The goal is the sprint goal that we are defining. So the content of the sprint can change as long as we're keeping the sprint goal intact. But again, if it's complete change, something super urgent, the company is going into a different direction or something like that, change everything. Don't work on something.
I think the thing here is how often does it happens, okay? So if it happens once in a while, then because of, you know, circumstances that happened in the business, in, you know, in what we found out during development, sure, do the change. But if it happens a lot, it might be that there is some systematic problem in the way we work, okay? So either our sprints are too long, for the pace of the business, either we don't plan good enough, we don't understand what we are trying to do, either our stakeholders are not part. This is something that happened to me a lot, when the stakeholders are not part of the process, of the way we work. So, you know, when they need something, they just ask for it, and they have the power and they change it. But if they are part of our rhythm, if they understand the cadence, if we plan properly, we might minimize these changes, okay? So we create more quiet and focus for the team. So bottom line, I think it depends on how often this situation happens, and when it happens a lot, you need to find what are the systematic problems.
Yes, so if it happens frequently, then as Yael just said, there could be many reasons for it. Just do an inspect and adapt session or retrospective on why this is happening, and find the root cause and change it.
Many times it's a problem of communication, just communication. We didn't talk with the right people, and suddenly it became something that we must do.
Yes.
Okay, so just being respectful of the time for the webinar is ended. And in fact, people are beginning to leave because obviously they have some kind of commitment. What I suggest we do is we take one more question. And as I said earlier, we're going to reach out to you, or you can reach out to us and make sure that we answered all your questions. There are many more questions that you might even think about. We're happy to engage with that. So let me.
I'm starting to answer some of the questions by typing an answer. So
okay, so this is self-management at its best and way to go offer. And let me pick another good question.
It's a fun format.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm waiting for a surprise in the question that you will pick.
Let's take this question by Pavel Isaev. Hopefully that's what pronounced properly. So the question goes this way: while working in an Agile framework, by the way, Agile frameworks, Scrum, Kanban, Safe, DAD, LESS, and so on and so forth, is there a place for practices like effort estimations, feature design, and so on? If yes, what is the best practice to implement it? So I think Pavel, allow me to maybe rephrase your question. Hopefully this is what you meant. If not, we can talk later. You're working in, you chose an Agile framework, and you're asking about other practices that design thinking, feature design, and so on and so forth. You're asking, even if it's not part of the framework, is there a place for it? Hopefully this is what I understood. And again, we can talk later, but if this is the situation, we're working in a framework, dear panelists, and what do we do with other practices that we think are important? I'm happy to take it.
If I understood it correctly, if we think that these practices are important and contribute to our way we work, then we should keep them. I mean, unless they are stopping us or preventing us from reaching what we want to reach as an agile way of working. It's making our deliveries slower. It's making our flexibility with the customers worse. I mean, you need to check whether this practice is going along the line with the principles that you want to implement, to adopt.
Yeah, Agile doesn't mean that we need to stop thinking or that there are only what Agile says is important. Yeah, on the contrary, Agile is very eclectic. Things like TOC and design thinking and many other words find their way into Agile. The important thing, as Yael said, is to make sure to ask why do we want to add it and make sure that it's not contradicting anything or we just, used to an old habit and we just don't want to forgo it and take other things that may improve our efficiency and effectiveness.
By the way, the things that he mentioned, like estimations and design, it's some of the misconceptions about Agile because it's not like engineers stop doing design for their features. They're just not doing big upfront design or very detailed upfront designs, but they do and they need designs, and estimations is part of the day-to-day of teams. They do estimations in different horizons, and we do estimations all the time. We plan all the time. So I think that the two practices that he mentioned in the question are some of the misconceptions about Agile. So we don't do that and we don't do that. And I think teams are doing it and they can.
Okay, guys, thank you very much, dear panelists. And of course, you, dear attendees. Unfortunately, we were able to answer about half of the questions, maybe less than that, which gives us an appetite for doing another one of these webinars. Absolutely, we will do that. This recording, the recording of this session will be available for you. And feel free to reach out to us and ask more questions and join our next webinars. Do join our next courses. If you register to our database, then we will send information about new courses and new offerings that we have. As I hope you were able to see, we're very passionate about what we do. We like to answer questions, and this has been fun for me, hopefully fun for you. And in the spirit of New Year's, the Israeli and the Jewish New Year's coming next week.
Happy New Year.
I want to say Happy New Year, Shana Tova.